Finally, the San Francisco 49ers won a ball game. Their 3-game losing streak is over, and their playoff hopes are still alive, but just barely. We're going to talk about this victory over the Chicago Bears, 38-13 in Week 14, and take a look at the NFC Playoff Picture. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Thanks for hanging out for our post-game instant reaction video, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for daily and year-round coverage of the San Francisco 49ers. So let's talk about this ball game here. And really, this game was decided for the most part in the first half. And San Francisco had a dominant first quarter. San Francisco up 24-0 at recess. And they really took control of this football game right from the start. Their opening drive, in which they marched down 70 yards, all of those yards coming by way of passing plays, was really impressive. And I thought it was one of Kyle Shanahan's best drives that he's had in quite some time, and probably the best opening drive that the Niners have had this year. And from start to finish, this Niners performance may be their best all-around performance that we have seen during the 2024 campaign. In a way, that is worth celebrating, because San Francisco is 38-13, or they win 38-13. They are now 6-7. Their playoff hopes are still alive with 4 games left. But what's also frustrating about this win, San Francisco played smash mouth football. They played bully ball. They finally found an identity. They played the game on their terms. Kyle Shanahan was not conservative. He was aggressive. The Niners were up a couple of scores. He trotted out Jake Moody for a 43-yard field goal. He said, you know what? Screw that. We're going to go for it on this 4th and 1. They converted. They scored a touchdown. The defense was flying around. Really, in all 3 phases, San Francisco was pretty good. But what took so long? It took until Week 14 for the Niners to find their identity. It took until Week 14 for the San Francisco team to play their best football. And while it's great that they won this football game, because, man, I was tired of getting just torn apart in the comment section for criticizing this football team when they've lost in back-to-back weeks 38-10, 35-10. It's also no fun to have to talk about losses and bad football over and over again. But the Niners have dug themselves a hole. The Niners have shot themselves in the foot where they win this game. They finally put together a 60-minute performance offensively and defensively, yet the Seattle Seahawks have now won 4 games in a row, and they are still 2 games ahead of the Niners in the NFC West with 4 games left. The Los Angeles Rams outlasted the Buffalo Bills 44-42. They're going to move to 7-6, and the Niners are a game behind Los Angeles, with the Rams and Niners set to meet on Thursday night in a game that's going to be big. But really, the team that the Niners are chasing right now, it's the Seahawks. And the Seahawks winning these 4 games in a row started with that choke job, that awful game against the Seahawks back about a month ago. And then the Niners lost those 3 games in a row. And so that's what's frustrating about this season for San Francisco, because today they showed what they're capable of being. They showed their potential and how they're capable of playing this year. They have talent. They do have a talented coaching staff. They have players on both sides of the ball. They have suffered from a lot of injuries. But this is a solid football team. A solid football team that's played average football, up and down football, Jekyll and Hyde football, and that's why they're still 1 game below 500. And while their playoff hopes are still alive, probably a little bit too little too late in that type of degree. But look at these numbers here. San Francisco putting up 452 yards of offense. They gave up 4 net yards of offense to the Bears in the first half. San Francisco averaged 7.4 yards per play. Brock Purdy was nearly perfect in this game. He was 20 of 25 for 325 yards, 13 yards per completion, 2 touchdowns, no picks, got sacked once, and a passer rating of 145.4. The Niners ran it 34 times for 131 yards Isaac Guerendo popped off 15 carries, 78 yards, 5.2 yards per carry. He did leave the game with a foot injury. Niners are already really light at that running back spot. But how about Guerendo running it? How about the 27-yard wheel route that he caught? How about the 22, 23-yard screen pass that he caught on that first drive? And going back to that first drive, Kyle Shanahan, where has this performance been from your football team? Where has a drive like that been from your football team? Where has some of the creative play calling been all throughout this year? That first drive, screen to Guerendo, screen to Kittle, touch pass from Purdy to Jauan Jennings, who was terrific in this game. Jennings, 7 catches, 90 yards. George Kittle, 6 catches, $151. Jennings had 2 scores. Kittle was awesome, and that's a player who I think the Niners should extend after this year. And so those are some highlights in this football game. Another thing that kind of bothers you, Nick Sorensen. Where has the defensive performance been like this from your football team? Where really the Niners gave up one scoring drive when this game mattered, and it was the opening drive of that third quarter when Chicago marched 70 yards down the field, took nearly 10 minutes off the clock, and scored that touchdown on that pass from Caleb Williams to Rome Odunze. But don't get it twisted. The Bears might be 4-8. This is a Bears team that was playing really good football in the lead up to this game, and the Niners completely grabbed this game by the neck right from the start and controlled it. And one more thing that's frustrating. We saw how this offense looks when you don't have to force feed Christian McCaffrey the football. We have been saying this, the real ball knowers, the non-casuals have been saying this since McCaffrey came back. Manage his workload. Don't force feed him the rock. He's not 100%. He doesn't look 100%. Don't have your offense solely go through Christian McCaffrey. Sprinkle a little bit of creativity in there. Have a balanced offensive attack. It makes the Niners more difficult to defend. And today, we saw that. You're seeing Isaac Guerendo play very well. You're putting a lot on Brock Purdy's plate. He succeeds with that. Jauan Jennings continues to be wide receiver 1. George Kittle has an all-world game. Deebo Samuel had a nice 20-yard reception downfield, although the running plays to him and the explosion continues to be lacking in his game. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 Niners players caught a pass in this football game. And then defensively, you win the turnover battle 1-0, and the flash performance, Yetur Gross-Matos, 3 sacks of Caleb Williams. The Niners as a team sacked Caleb Williams 6 times. Now, the Bears' offensive line is bad, but that offense has been not bad over the last month. The Bears have nearly beaten, in the lead up to this game, the Packers, Vikings, and Lions in 3 straight weeks. Just bad coaching really costs them those football games. More to get to here on today's show with our post-game show. But first, PrizePicks, our sponsor, right here on the 49ers Report. Daily fantasy sports made easy. You pick 2 or more players. You choose more or less on their projected stats, and you can win up to 100 times your money. And right now, when you plug in that link at the bottom of your screen, prizepicks.com/CLNS, and you play $5, you get $50 instantly. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. More than 10 million active members. That's why it's the best and biggest daily fantasy sports app. Billions of dollars handed out in awarded winnings. And if you listen to Chip and I, we always know ball. And when you look at our selections for today, if you hopped on our PP, you won. Brock Purdy, more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. Check. George Kittle, more than 4.5 catches. Check. DeAndre Swift, less than 73.5 rushing and receiving yards. Check. 3 for 3. Money is won. It's a victory Sunday, and we're going to turn that into a victory Monday. You love to see it. Pick more, pick less. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use that code CLNS so that when you play $5, you get $50 instantly. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. All right, Isaac Guerendo injury news. This sucks. Isaac Guerendo may have sprained his foot. He will undergo an MRI on Monday. This is a player with a lot of ability. This is a player who has been injured a lot. Hamstring issues dating back years. And so if Isaac Guerendo is out, that will hurt San Francisco. Because, one, you want to continue to develop your players and see who could be a part of this team next year. Two, he's a really good player who's very comfortable catching the ball out of the backfield. And he's a talented runner. Three, you have no running backs. Patrick Taylor and Keyshawn Vaughn are the next two running backs in line behind Isaac Guerendo. And San Francisco made that signing this past week of Abanda Kara or whatever his name is. He's their third back who barely knows this system. Ben Barch, who was filling in for Aaron Banks at left guard, I wanted to see more from him because it looked as though, he could be a future member of this offensive line. He had to get carted off, and we'll see what his injury status is moving forward. But that also isn't great news. Other takeaways from this game. Talanoa Hufanga came back. He's missed a lot of time this year. Obviously, to start the year with the torn ACL. Then he injured his ankle. Then he tore ligaments in his wrist. Talanoa Hufanga is a very interesting player because he is not great in coverage. The Niners will try to hide him in coverage. But when he is utilized as a Swiss Army knife, where he can kind of roam and play all around the field, he's a really intriguing player. The Niners started Talanoa Hufanga and Malik Mustafa at safety. Jair Brown got benched. And Jair Brown is a player who last year, after he was selected in the third round, stepped in very nicely when Talanoa Hufanga was lost for the year. He intercepted Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. The Niners used a third-round pick on him. Steve Wilkes has a defensive background, and with Steve Wilkes being gone and Nick Sorensen, in my opinion, being in over his skis, Jair Brown's development has been stunted because of bad coaching. But it's also a credit to Talanoa Hufanga for being the player that he is. You watch this game today, he's just always around the ball. And that's an instinctual player who, since he went out last year, the Niners' defensive numbers really all across the board have gone downhill. Because of his injuries, if he can return to the Niners on a one-year deal, that's something that I would entertain and be interested in. Because you can't just find players who have that type of instinctual feel. So, to recap things, Purdy, 20 of 25, 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, passer rating of 145.4. You know what stood out to me today about Brock Purdy? Throwing balls downfield. The shoulder looks okay, and that's great news. I mean, he was uncorking some long balls and some throws with zip and touch. If you have Brock Purdy playing in some decent weather, chances are Brock Purdy is going to have a really good game. And in this game, he was nearly perfect. He was carving up a pretty highly ranked Chicago defense. And coming into this game, we had talked about some of the Bears' defensive numbers so far this year. They were 9th in points per game. They were 9th in points per play. They were 5th on third downs. They were 7th on fourth downs. Number 1 red zone scoring percentage defense in the NFL. And in this game for San Francisco, they settled for 1 field goal, and they cured some of their red zone problems against one of the top red zone defenses in the NFL. Jauan Jennings caught a 7-yard touchdown pass. That's capitalizing in the red zone. Isaac Guerendo had a 1-yard touchdown run and a 4-yard touchdown run. Jauan Jennings had a 16-yard touchdown catch from Brock Purdy. So the 49ers converted 5 times in the red zone in this game. And that's a Bears defense that was giving up 20 points per game. And San Francisco, with ease, put up 38. Is this something to build on? It could be. But again, what I brought up earlier, is it too little too late for San Francisco? because the divisional standings right now, Rams are 8-5. Seahawks are 8-5. Rams are 7-6. Cardinals are 6-7. They've now lost 3 games in a row. And the 49ers are 6-7. Niners need to beat the Rams on Thursday Night Football. We'll be live right here on the Niners Report. That would move them to 7-7. It would drop the Rams to 7-7. That would even up the season series at 1-1. So then the Niners would own the tiebreaker because of the recent victory. But then the Niners need the Seahawks to lose 2 of their final 4 games. And that's an uphill battle to have to ask for all of that. Now, Seattle will host the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football. They will host the Minnesota Vikings. They will go on the road to play the Bears and on the road to take on the Rams. Can the Seahawks lose 2 of those games, but then the Niners have to win out? That's the uphill realistic battle that San Francisco is facing here. So, it's a reaction, post-game show, live here on the Niners Report. Thanks for watching. Will the Niners make the playoffs? Y for yes, N for no. Are the Niners back? Today was a good step in the right direction.